Hey, everyone, welcome back to Formulated Millionaire, the channel where we break down everything you need to know about XRP, crypto trends, and market-shaking leaks. Today, we're diving into a story that has the entire XRP world buzzing, a leak that insiders say could change everything about how we view XRP's future. Yes, I'm talking about the bombshell leak that just exposed what many have suspected but no one could confirm, until now. So, let's set the stage. For months, XRP holders have been speculating on Ripple's plans, court outcomes, and potential partnerships. Rumors fly constantly, and the lack of transparency often leaves traders and enthusiasts feeling anxious. But this leak, it's different. The source, whom we'll refer to as the leaker, claims to have access to internal communications, confidential strategic documents, and financial projections that have never been made public. And according to them, the implications are huge. Now, I know what you're thinking, is this legit? Could it really impact XRP's price? That's exactly what we're going to unpack in this first section. Let's dive into the details. The leak's origin and credibility. The leak reportedly came from an insider within Ripple Labs who wanted to reveal the truth about the company's internal operations. From what we've gathered, the leaker is a senior-level employee with direct access to strategic planning meetings. They shared screenshots, emails, and even early drafts of upcoming press releases. While some skeptics may dismiss this as unverified, several crypto analysts have cross-checked portions of the information and found it aligns with previous Ripple filings and SEC updates. In short, while we always recommend caution, the credibility here is higher than the typical social media rumor. What the leak reveals about XRP's strategy. Here's where things get interesting. According to the leak, Ripple is preparing to pivot some of its strategies in ways that could directly affect XRP's market adoption. 1. Massive expansion into Asia and Middle East. Documents indicate that Ripple is negotiating with major banks and payment processors in Southeast Asia, specifically in Singapore, Malaysia, and the UAE. The goal appears to be integrating XRP into high-volume cross-border transactions, which could significantly increase liquidity. For context, RippleNet already processes trillions in cross-border transactions yearly, but this expansion could double the reach of XRP in a short period. 2. New DeFi partnerships. The leaker disclosed discussions with decentralized finance platforms that are considering XRP as a core liquidity token. This is a game changer because DeFi adoption has historically been dominated by Ethereum-based assets. If XRP secures these partnerships, it could become a preferred token for fast, low-cost transactions in DeFi ecosystems. 3. Regulatory positioning. Perhaps the most significant revelation is Ripple's internal preparation for regulatory clarity. According to the leaked emails, Ripple is not only focused on the ongoing SEC lawsuit but is proactively creating frameworks to ensure XRP remains compliant globally. They've been in talks with several regulators to define standards that could make XRP one of the first widely adopted cryptocurrencies with clear legal backing. This could drastically reduce investor uncertainty. Potential market implications. Let's translate this into what it means for you as an investor or trader. If Ripple successfully executes these plans, XRP could see increased liquidity, more exchanges and wallets adopting XRP, price stability, regulatory clarity often reduces volatility, institutional adoption, large-scale financial partnerships can drive demand. For example, if XRP integrates into high-volume banks in Singapore, we're potentially talking about billions in daily transaction volume. And as liquidity and adoption increase, it often leads to upward price momentum. Historically, XRP has shown responsiveness to adoption news. Remember the surge in late 2020 when Ripple announced partnerships with major payment networks. We could see similar dynamics on a larger scale. Why the timing matters. Another interesting point from the leak is the timing. Ripple appears to be accelerating these initiatives in 2025, which aligns with broader crypto market trends and the push for mainstream adoption. It seems they're trying to position XRP not just as a bridge currency but as a central player in cross-border payments in DeFi. This part of the leak also hints at internal sentiment. Ripple is confident and cautiously optimistic. Unlike the speculation-driven hype we often see on social media, the documents reveal a company methodically planning for long-term growth. That's a key takeaway. This isn't just hype, it's strategic action. Key takeaways from Part 1. To summarize this first key point. 1. The leak originates from a credible internal source within Ripple Labs. 2. It exposes plans for global expansion, DeFi partnerships, and regulatory positioning. 3. If executed, these strategies could massively impact XRP's liquidity, adoption, and price. 4. Timing is crucial. Ripple appears to be accelerating growth initiatives in 2025. 5. This isn't just speculation. The documents suggest deliberate, long-term planning. We uncovered the initial bombshell leak from Ripple insiders. Today, we're diving deeper into the financial side of things, the part that really makes this leak a potential game changer for XRP holders, traders, and institutional investors. Stick with me, because we're talking numbers, market insights, and real implications that could directly impact your portfolio. Understanding Ripple's financial position. According to the leak, Ripple is sitting on significant capital reserves that aren't widely known. While Ripple has always disclosed certain holdings in funding rounds, these leaked internal reports reveal a deeper picture. 1. Liquidity reserves. Ripple reportedly has billions of XRP and fiat liquidity stored to support transactions and partnerships. The leak specifies that roughly 40% of these reserves are earmarked for new strategic investments, including expansion into Asia and partnerships with Fintech platforms. This is massive because it signals Ripple has both the means and the intent to accelerate XRP adoption without risking liquidity crises. 2. Revenue projections. Internal projections shared in the leak indicate that Ripple anticipates a 35–45% increase in annual revenue from XRP-related activities over the next 12 to 18 months. These projections are based on adoption metrics, transaction volume, and upcoming partnerships. For context, Ripple's last publicly disclosed revenue growth was around 30% year-over-year, so this would represent a notable uptick. 3. Cost management strategies. The leak also highlights Ripple's internal budgeting and cost-saving measures. For example, Ripple is reportedly streamlining its operations, reducing overhead, and reallocating resources to high-impact projects. This indicates a focus on efficiency, which can strengthen XRP's position without unnecessary dilution of value. Market implications of the leak. So what does this mean for the broader XRP market? Let's break it down. Price potential. With additional liquidity and strategic investments, XRP could see increased upward momentum. Historically, when Ripple announces or executes large-scale partnerships, we often see a spike in market confidence and price action. The leak suggests that there could be multiple catalysts in the pipeline that haven't hit the public eye yet. This could lead to sustained bullish trends rather than short-term pump and dump cycles. Institutional adoption. Perhaps the most critical insight is Ripple's positioning for institutional investors. Banks, hedge funds, and fintech firms typically avoid cryptocurrencies with unclear legal or operational frameworks. By demonstrating strong liquidity reserves and clear growth strategies, Ripple is making XRP more appealing to these players. The leak even hints at private discussions with at least 5 major institutions that could integrate XRP into their cross-border systems within the next 6 months. That's huge because institutional demand can dramatically impact market liquidity and stability. Investor confidence. Insider financial transparency, even if leaked, tends to reassure retail investors. If these projections are accurate, we might see increased retail participation as well, with more people buying XRP in anticipation of adoption and price appreciation. Analyzing the numbers. Let's look at an example from the leak to make this tangible. The internal forecast shows that a major partnership in Southeast Asia could result in roughly $1.2 billion in transaction volume processed monthly using XRP. If we conservatively estimate a 0.1% transaction fee benefit for Ripple, That's $1.2 million in monthly revenue from a single partnership. Multiply that by multiple partnerships hinted at in the leak, and we're looking at revenue streams that could substantially influence Ripple's operations and XRP liquidity. Additionally, the leak reveals that Ripple is planning to use a portion of these revenues to buy back XRP from the market. Buybacks can reduce circulating supply, create upward price pressure, and signal confidence from the company. For traders, this is a key signal. Fewer tokens in circulation combined with growing adoption can increase demand and support stronger price performance. Potential risks highlighted in the leak. No financial insight is complete without considering the risks. The leak also points out internal concerns Ripple has flagged. 1. Regulatory uncertainty. Even with proactive measures, global regulations can change quickly. Ripple is clearly aware of this and is actively negotiating with regulators, but any sudden regulatory shifts could temporarily affect market sentiment. 2. Market volatility. Cryptocurrency markets are inherently volatile. While the leak highlights strong growth in partnerships, price swings could occur based on broader market dynamics or macroeconomic factors, including interest rate changes, investor sentiment, or competing crypto projects. 3. Execution risk. The leak details ambitious plans, but implementation is key. Partnerships, platform integrations, and cross-border expansions must be executed flawlessly. Any delay or misstep could impact market confidence. Real-world example of market impact. To give context, think back to Ripple's previous announcements in late 2019 and 2020. When Ripple revealed partnerships with Santander and MoneyGram, XRP saw a notable short-term spike. However, sustained adoption and clear use cases are what eventually support long-term growth. The leak suggests that Ripple is working on both fronts: immediate partnerships for momentum and long-term structural adoption to stabilize XRP as a major payment and DeFi token. Key takeaways from Part 2. Here's what you should remember. 1. Ripple has substantial liquidity reserves to fund growth and adoption. 2. Revenue projections suggest 35–45% growth in XRP-related activities. 3. Strategic cost management indicates efficiency and a focus on high-impact initiatives. 4. Institutional adoption is a real potential driver for XRP's market stability and price appreciation. 5. Risks exist, but the leak shows that Ripple is aware and actively mitigating them. 6. Buyback plans could reduce circulating supply, creating potential upward price pressure. Welcome back to Formulated Millionaire. So far, we've unpacked the initial leak and explored the financial insights it revealed. Now, we're diving into what might be the most critical factor for XRP holders and traders: regulatory and legal implications. If you're invested in XRP, understanding how Ripple navigates global regulations is absolutely essential because it directly affects adoption, price, and long-term viability. The SEC lawsuit and internal planning. As many of you know, Ripple has been embroiled in a legal battle with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) for several years. The core issue: whether XRP qualifies as a security. While the case has seen multiple twists and turns, the leak reveals that Ripple has been meticulously planning for every possible outcome. The documents show that Ripple's legal team is preparing for 1. Favorable settlement scenarios. The leak suggests that Ripple is negotiating terms that could allow XRP to continue trading freely without retroactive penalties. This could be a game changer, as it may finally clear regulatory uncertainty in the U.S. market. 2. Alternative regulatory strategies. In case of an unfavorable verdict, Ripple is reportedly developing contingency plans to pivot to international markets with more favorable legal environments. This includes partnerships in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, where regulators are more open to cryptocurrency innovation. 3. Internal compliance programs. The leak highlights Ripple's creation of internal compliance frameworks to proactively meet regulatory standards. These programs include anti-money laundering (AML) measures, transaction monitoring, and reporting protocols that exceed current legal requirements. Global regulatory expansion. While the SEC lawsuit gets the most attention, the leak shows that Ripple isn't just focused on the US market. Here's what's coming. Asia-Pacific focus. Ripple is actively negotiating with central banks in Singapore, Japan, and the UAE to position XRP as a preferred cross-border transaction currency. The documents suggest these talks include formal agreements that could accelerate adoption across millions of users in these regions. European Union compliance. Ripple is preparing for compliance with the EU's markets in crypto assets (MiCA) regulations. The leak includes drafts of internal strategies showing Ripple's commitment to align XRP with these frameworks well ahead of official enforcement. Proactive regulatory dialogues. Perhaps the most eye-opening part of the leak is Ripple's strategy of open communication with regulators. Instead of waiting for laws to force their hand, Ripple appears to be actively shaping how XRP fits into global crypto regulations. Implications for investors. Now, why should you care about all this? Because regulatory clarity directly influences market confidence. Let's break it down. 1. Reduced legal risk. If Ripple successfully navigates the SEC and other regulatory bodies, XRP could see a dramatic reduction in risk premiums. In practical terms, this means traders and institutions may feel safer holding XRP, which can stabilize price volatility. 2. Increased institutional interest. Institutions typically avoid assets with legal uncertainty. Clear regulatory compliance could open doors for hedge funds, banks, and payment platforms to adopt XRP in significant volumes. 3. Global adoption advantage. By strategically focusing on regions with crypto-friendly regulations, Ripple could create network effects that make XRP indispensable for cross-border payments. If major banks in Asia or Europe start using XRP, global adoption could accelerate rapidly. Examples of potential market scenarios. Let's consider two hypothetical scenarios revealed in the leak. Scenario 1. Favorable settlement. Ripple wins or settles favorably with the SEC. This leads to immediate legal clarity in the US, restoring confidence among domestic investors. We could see an influx of institutional capital, potentially driving XRP price upward in a relatively short period. Scenario 2. Partial setback with global pivot. Even if the US outcome is less favorable, Ripple's contingency plans could allow it to pivot fully to international markets. While domestic adoption might slow temporarily, the combined adoption in Asia and Europe could maintain or even increase XRP's overall market value. Ripple's legal communication strategy. The leak also shows how Ripple is handling public perception and communication. Internal memos suggest Ripple plans to maintain transparency with investors without disclosing confidential legal strategies. By managing narratives carefully, Ripple can avoid panic selling and misinformation while reinforcing confidence in long-term growth. Key takeaways from Part 3. Here's what you need to remember. 1. The SEC lawsuit remains important, but Ripple has prepared multiple outcomes. 2. International regulatory strategies could significantly enhance XRP adoption outside the US. 3. Compliance frameworks are being built proactively to meet or exceed legal requirements. 4. Legal clarity reduces risk, encourages institutional interest, and stabilizes price. 5. Even in adverse scenarios, Ripple has contingency plans that protect XRP's long-term viability. Now that we've explored the financial and regulatory insights from the leak, the next critical piece is understanding how this affects real-world adoption and network growth. In Part 4, we'll examine Ripple's partnerships, technology integrations, and market strategies that could expand XRP's utility exponentially. This is where the leak reveals the tangible steps Ripple is taking to turn strategic plans into reality. Welcome back to Formulated Millionaire. If you've been following along, you already know that Ripple's leak has given us unprecedented insight into the company's financials and regulatory strategies. Now, we're entering a section that truly matters for every XRP holder: real-world adoption and network growth strategies. After all the financial planning in the world only matters if XRP is widely used and integrated into global systems. Expanding RippleNet. a global payment revolution. One of the most exciting aspects of the leak is Ripple's plans for RippleNet expansion. RippleNet, as many of you know, is Ripple's payment network that facilitates fast and cost-efficient cross-border transactions. According to the leak, 1. Targeting high-volume corridors, Ripple is strategically focusing on regions with the highest cross-border transaction volumes. This includes corridors between the US, Asia, and the Middle East. For instance, remittance flows from the US to the Philippines alone exceed $35 billion annually. Ripple's internal documents suggest that XRP could become a primary medium for these transfers, reducing fees and increasing speed dramatically. 2. Partnerships with major banks. The leak highlights ongoing negotiations with several large banks in Southeast Asia and the UAE. These partnerships are not just symbolic, they include technical integration plans that would allow banks to settle cross-border transactions using XRP in near real-time. This adoption could vastly increase XRP's transactional volume and global liquidity. 3. Integration with payment platforms. Ripple is also targeting fintech companies and payment platforms that already serve millions of users. According to the leak, discussions are underway to integrate XRP into mobile wallets, e-commerce platforms, and digital payment apps. If executed, everyday users could start transacting in XRP seamlessly, which would be a massive leap toward mainstream adoption. DeFi expansion. XRP is a core liquidity token. Another major revelation is Ripple's strategy for decentralized finance DeFi. The leak indicates that Ripple is exploring partnerships with leading DeFi protocols to use XRP as a primary liquidity token. This is huge because, historically, DeFi has been dominated by Ethereum and its ERC20 tokens. XRP's integration could diversify liquidity pools and open new use cases. For example, XRP could be used in lending, borrowing, and yield farming platforms, generating additional utility and value for holders. By becoming a core liquidity token, XRP could attract a whole new category of users who are focused on DeFi opportunities rather than just trading. Technological innovations driving adoption. The leak also revealed upcoming technology upgrades designed to make XRP faster, more secure, and more scalable. Some key points include: 1. Enhanced transaction speeds. Ripple is reportedly testing enhancements that could reduce transaction settlement times to just a few seconds globally. Faster transactions are critical for banking adoption, especially for high-volume transfers. 2. Smart contract capabilities. While XRP has traditionally focused on payments, the leak suggests Ripple is exploring limited smart contract functionalities to enable programmable transactions. This could make XRP competitive in areas currently dominated by Ethereum and Solana. 3. Interoperability with other blockchains. Ripple is working on solutions to integrate XRP with other blockchain networks. This would allow cross-chain transactions and expand XRP's utility in a multi-chain future, making it more appealing to developers and businesses. Community and developer ecosystem. The leak also emphasizes Ripple's focus on building a vibrant developer ecosystem. They're reportedly planning hackathons and grants, incentivizing developers to build apps that use XRP. Developer tools, enhancements to SDKs and APIs for easier integration of XRP into existing financial systems. Community engagement programs to educate and engage retail users, increasing grassroots adoption. These initiatives are crucial because technology adoption often depends on community involvement. The more developers and businesses integrate XRP, the more utility it gains, and that utility translates directly into value for holders. Market implications of adoption plans. The leak makes it clear that Ripple isn't just chasing hype, they are targeting practical adoption. If Ripple successfully executes these plans, XRP's transactional volume could increase exponentially. Retail and institutional confidence in XRP would likely rise. Increased utility and adoption could create sustained demand, potentially supporting long-term price growth. Real-world example. Consider the Southeast Asia partnership hinted in the leak. If XRP becomes the preferred settlement token for banks handling billions in remittances monthly, the ripple effect, pun intended, could be enormous. Transaction fees drop, settlement times shrink, and XRP becomes embedded in global financial infrastructure. The same could apply to fintech platforms adopting XRP in daily commerce. Key takeaways from Part 4. Here's what you should remember. 1. RippleNet expansion targets high-volume cross-border corridors for real-world adoption. 2. Partnerships with banks and fintech platforms could drive XRP into mainstream use. 3. DeFi integration positions XRP as a key liquidity token beyond traditional payments. 4. Technological upgrades enhance speed, security, and interoperability, making XRP competitive. 5. Developer and community programs support long-term adoption and network growth. You've stayed with me through the explosive leak, Ripple's financial insights, regulatory strategies, and adoption plans. Now it's time to connect all the dots and discuss what this all means for XRP investors, traders, and enthusiasts. This is where the leak becomes actionable, where you can take insights and make informed decisions. Market predictions based on the leak. Let's break down the leak's implications for XRP's market trajectory. Based on the internal projections and adoption strategies revealed. 1. Short-term price movements next 3 to 6 months. The leak suggests multiple catalysts that could create short-term price spikes. Partnership announcements. If Ripple confirms integrations with banks or fintech platforms, we could see immediate bullish reactions. Historically, XRP often experiences price surges following major partnership news. SEC case developments. Any favorable legal update in the U.S. could trigger market optimism, driving retail and institutional buying. Liquidity buybacks. The leak indicates potential buybacks by Ripple, which could create upward pressure by reducing circulating supply. For example, suppose Ripple announces a partnership with a major Southeast Asian bank processing billions in transactions monthly. Such news could drive XRP price momentum similar to its surge in late 2020 following partnership announcements. 2. Medium-term outlook, 6-12 months. Ripple's global adoption plans, DeFi integration, and technological upgrades suggest sustained market activity. By 2025, if the adoption initiatives succeed, XRP could become a preferred settlement token in cross-border transactions, leading to a steady increase in demand. Growing usage in DeFi ecosystems could attract new investors, further strengthening liquidity. Institutional interest may rise as regulatory clarity emerges, providing stability and reducing volatility. 3. Long-term scenario, 1 to 3 years and beyond. The leak paints a vision of XRP as a globally recognized utility token, integrated across multiple financial ecosystems. Broad adoption across banks and fintech platforms could make XRP a central part of international payments. Interoperability with other blockchains could position XRP as a foundational token in multi-chain finance. Developer and community engagement may drive innovation, creating additional use cases beyond payments and DeFi. This long-term scenario positions XRP not just as a speculative asset, but as a strategic financial tool, increasing its intrinsic value. Actionable investor insights. Based on the leak, here are some actionable takeaways for different types of investors. 1. Long-term holders, HODLERs. Focus on Ripple's global adoption and regulatory strategy. The leak suggests XRP has strong fundamentals, so long-term holding could benefit from adoption-driven price growth. Keep an eye on key partnership announcements, they may indicate the start of major adoption waves. 2. Short-term traders. Monitor news and leaked updates for potential catalysts. Price spikes may occur around partnership confirmations, SEC updates, or buyback initiatives. Consider technical indicators in combination with these fundamental signals to time trades. 3. DeFi and tech-savvy investors. Explore potential DeFi integrations as indicated by the leak. XRP's role in liquidity pools and smart contract applications could create opportunities for yield generation. Track network growth and usage metrics. as increasing utility often correlates with price stability. Potential risks and how to manage them. No investment is risk-free, and the leak itself highlights some potential challenges. Regulatory setbacks. Even with contingency plans, legal hurdles could temporarily affect XRP's market performance. Stay updated on SEC proceedings and international regulations. Execution risk. Ripple's ambitious expansion and integration plans require flawless execution. Any delays could impact adoption speed and investor confidence. Market volatility. Crypto markets are inherently volatile. Use position sizing and risk management strategies to protect your portfolio. Connecting the leak to real-world strategy. The leak gives a rare glimpse into Ripple's internal roadmap, which can guide investors strategically. Look for adoption trends in Asia, Europe, and DeFi sectors. Pay attention to technological upgrades like faster transaction speeds and interoperability. Monitor buyback announcements and liquidity initiatives, as they directly influence supply and demand. Summary of key points across all parts. Let's recap what we've uncovered in this video. 1. Part 1: The leak. A credible insider exposed Ripple's strategic plans for global expansion, DeFi partnerships, and regulatory positioning. 2. Part 2: Financial insights. Ripple has strong liquidity, revenue growth projections, and potential buybacks that could positively impact XRP's market dynamics. 3. Part 3: Regulatory implications. Legal strategies and proactive compliance measures reduce uncertainty and encourage institutional adoption. 4. Part 4: Adoption strategies. Partnerships, technological upgrades, and developer engagement are driving real-world XRP adoption and network growth. 5. Part 5: Market predictions and actionable takeaways. Short-term, medium-term, and long-term projections suggest strong potential for XRP's price and utility, with actionable insights for all types of investors. Closing thoughts. This leak is more than just speculation, it's a roadmap showing Ripple's intent and execution strategy. For investors, it's a rare opportunity to align your decisions with insider insights, while still staying mindful of risks. Whether you're a long-term holder, trader, or DeFi enthusiast, understanding these strategies gives you a significant advantage. So here's my question for you. Do you think XRP will dominate global cross-border payments in the next 2 to 3 years, or will regulatory challenges hold it back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see what the community thinks. And, as always, if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any future XRP updates. This is Formulated Millionaire, bringing you the latest, most actionable insights straight from the crypto world.